Hey, Carl. Oh, Carl.
Hi, Rory.
Carl is a very special person. Carl is almost as special as Matthew because Matthew actually paid for the course. But Carl is special in a slightly different way.
So did I.
I'm pretty sure Paul paid as well.
It's all tax deductible, Rory.
But you know,
How much?
I just said, you know what? Make it free because I just wanted people to learn about this thing, and just, you know, training a small number of people isn't amazing. But Carl is in the Power Platform Learn Hall of Fame because Carl is the first person to complete the course.
Oh, I think I see that.
Yeah, bravo. I don't even get a prize for finishing it myself. But and one of the fun things I want to do for Carl is just gradually keep adding things to the course so that I can keep taking away his certificate. Yeah, cool.
And then we pay for the additional certificates.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of. But actually, one of the things that I want to put into the course, I quite like to do something on containers. I don't know if you've seen bits about containers yet.
Yeah.
And they have these. You've got straight containers because groups aren't very good at all. But containers are these things can change shape and so on, and they mean you can have a mobile device doing one thing and so on. So that's one of the ways to extend it. But what I'm going to do now, if it's okay, I mean, Paul, Matthew, are either of you ready to get started? I'm not going to put you on the spot just yet, but are you?
It sounds like it, Rory.
You've got your screens ready and things like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty sure.
Well, Matthew, did you, if I go to you first, would that be all right?
That's fine, yeah.
Fab. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen very, very shortly, and we are going to get cracking. So I'm going to F11 that, and then I'll do a share screen, and I'm just going to share this screen here. Good. Okay, so I guess everyone, in fact, I'm going to stop sharing that one. I'm going to share a different one, F11, because I'm going to pop this up here, then move you guys down to here, get there, and then I'm going to F11 that. How does that look? Terrible. So this is actually the app that I used I'll just share my screen again, share screen, and then I will share this one and then share. So presumably everyone can see my screen at this point in time.
Yes.
Good. And so this is the app that I used to create the whole of the course and so on. But I find it really cool for just for allowing me to build little presentations and so on. So in this case, I'm just going to go down to the webinars and then across to just wait for the wonders of this thing to come through. Yep. In fact, that is not what I want to do. This is the joy of working at pace. So I think you guys are probably better prepared than I am at this rate. So I'll move on to this. Nearly there, we're nearly there. Yeah, I can actually see it just loading up on the left-hand side. So what we've got here is this is the course planner that I put together, and because it's got images, it uses the Common Data Service or rather Dataverse, and it's got images in it, and you can sort of see them coming in, but they're quite big. But it worked for me for building the course because I was able to get myself all prepped up as I went. Now, what I think I'm going to do now is this thing is having a bit of a hard time. That's okay. So here we are. This is our very first show and tell session.
it's unshared.
Oh, he's still there?
It's back. It's back. It's moving.
Back.
It's moving. You ran out of bandwidth, Rory, I think.
Yeah, indeed. That's probably because the family are on, you know, all sorts of things. So I'll go screen 3, share that, new project, record. Just going to record my screen. Honestly, we will get started on this. And record. And good. Yeah, so as I say, this is our very first show and tell session. I'd quite like to do more of them. I think it's a nice idea. I think it's a nice idea for people that are on the course and that are going through things to be able to show some of the things that they've done. And by showing and telling, I don't mean things that are finished. I mean things that you think are cool, that you kind of got through, and maybe you'll get into a point where you need a bit of help on it. That's fine. It all works. So at some point, what I'll do is I'll give people the opportunity to tell me if they want to come on to the show and tell in the future. But I thought I would in this session start off with two of the students I knew had made some apps that were of interest. So we have we're welcoming Paul Burns on today, and he built an app to help people with their recovery process from having had a stroke. Now, I'm not going to steal his thunder and talk about why he chose to make it and so on. I'll leave that for Paul to do. And then Matthew has made a library app. Now, I know this is a really interesting app. It definitely speaks to, it speaks to things like having data. And I know that he also uses the barcode reader, which I don't see being used often enough. You can see there are a vast number of ways in which you can use barcodes. I mean, that's what every supermarket uses. So, you know, if we've got this ability to have a barcode reader, then, you know, it's a great thing to have. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand over to Matthew so that he can tell us about his library app. Now, I will just do there is a bit of a so welcome to everyone. I wanted to do a little thing about house rules, but broadly speaking, it's really all about us being respectful about what people are presenting, and to, you know, and just to behave like good online citizens when we are in these sessions. So I mean, I could go into more detail on it, but it's really about being good citizens on this platform. Now, depending on time, I may show you some things along the way, and then there will be time for questions after Paul. In fact, I've gotten the wrong way around, but after Matthew has done his app and after Paul has talked about his app. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and I am going to pass the floor over to Matthew. But the first thing I need to do is to work out how to actually get to this. Right. So my skills with Zoom are being tested to the full. So Zoom, there it is. Nope, I don't know how to get to it. So here I am at the moment. I'm just trying desperately to get rid of this thing so I can get to you guys. Nope, I can get through you, but I can't get off this session. Ah, there we are. Stop share. It just appears in a very odd spot. So, and I can see lots of people have come to the session. So thank you so much for coming. And we're going to pass the floor over to Matthew to tell us a bit about his app.
Right. Thank you very much, Rory. Okay, I am going to give you a bit of background first, if I may. So I'm a bookseller. I was a bookseller for 30 odd years before I changed roles about 3 years ago and became a D365 Business Central consultant. And I work for a Microsoft partner in Glasgow called Kick ICT. And I've been dabbling with Power Platform for since about March. And came upon it really as a solution to my youngest daughter's issue with homeschooling, where we were suddenly all in lockdown, as I'm sure you all remember, and my 2 teenage daughters were thrown into homeschooling. My youngest is in S2, which is second year of secondary school in Scotland, so I don't know what year that translates to in England, and found herself in 17 teams. And being assigned tasks by a whole bunch of teachers, none of whom had really got a clue about how teams worked, and were sticking the work that they wanted the kids to do in files and in the chat, and were emailing it to them and doing all kinds of stuff. And she was getting really lost as to when it needed to be in and all that other kind of stuff. So I made a list in SharePoint of all the teams that she was doing, and as I was looking at SharePoint, I saw this button at the top saying Power App, and I clicked it, and it just went off and built an app. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I fiddled around with it for a bit and turned it into a thing that actually she could use, so that she could record what she was doing, when it was due in, and whereabouts, crucially, in the team, she could actually find it. And so having done that, I thought, this is quite cool. Started following a few people on Twitter, came across Rory, started looking at
my calendar on 22 January.
Sorry, what?
Sorry.
Yeah, I think maybe someone needs to mute themselves. Anyway, so anyway, I built that app and then thought, well, what next? What next will I do? And then one of the other things that had occurred during lockdown was that we'd formed a group, a WhatsApp group in the street. And I had suggested that because I had loads of books, I could lend them to people. And I'd seen these little libraries that other people had done in other parts of the country. And so I decided that I would borrow some scrap timber from people, and I would build a little library.
Oh, brilliant.
For the street. So I'm just going to try and share my screen, if I may. Let's have a look.
So there's a bit of handiwork then that went into this library. I just imagined it because a friend of mine, some people
there you go.
Near to us. Cool.
That's what it looks like.
Oh man, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
So yeah, someone had a sheet of perspex, as you'll see. So I managed to make a door that had a thing, and I had some roofing felt and built this thing, fixed it to the outside of the fence, chucked in a whole bunch of stuff that I had knocking around at home that I wanted to kind of get shot of, but I thought would be interesting to other people, and people started donating. And so people were coming and they were taking books out and they were putting books in, and I was getting more books in than I was getting out. And I started to realize that the thing was, it's not terribly big, as you can see, and that there were some things in there that weren't moving. And I thought, well, what can I do to work out what isn't moving? So I started taking a picture of it every day and comparing the photographs, and that was really clunky and didn't really work terribly well. And I thought, what I need to do is go back to Power Apps and build a scanner. And if I can scan everything every day, then once a day, then I can start comparing the things that are knocking around and staying in place without being borrowed ever. So there's never any gap in the sequence of days that they're in stock. So I went off and did a bit of research and fiddled about, and I built a scanner app. And then I realized that I needed another way of kind of recording what was being added to it. So I ended up with two SharePoint lists. I ended up with a list of books. I don't know if you can see. Are you still seeing? Right, here's my.
We're looking at your photos at the moment.
Are you? Hang on a sec. Let's have a new share then.
Admiring your photos, not just looking. Very impressed.
Okay, so here we go. Let's try this. Okay, so here we are. This is my SharePoint list of all the books that are currently have been or will be in the little library. And then there is a list of transactions, which is the scans. And so it's the date of the scan, what the book is, what the barcode is, and this goes on and on and on, down and down and down, day after day after day after day after day after day after day. And then somewhere lurking in the background, which I'm not going to show you because it's the ugliest thing in the world and I still haven't got it right, is a Power BI report that then gives me a dashboard that shows me which books have been knocking around for ages. So shall I show you how it works?
So in terms of the data model, I assume that you've got your transactions and you've got your books.
Yeah, so this is my list of books.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's
I love it.
That's relatively short. Short.
Yeah.
There's not an awful lot on there, and then the list of transactions. I mean, I can't really show you by scrolling because it just goes on and on and on.
No, that's fine though.
And so,
and that's why you need
something like that appears again and again and again. Okay, and so if something stays, it appears on the scan, every day for 30 days. It's like, well, no one's borrowed that in a month. Let's just take that out and replace it.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But you get other things that kind of appear, stay in place for 5 days, then disappear for 10 days, and then come back again. You've got some idea that that's the kind of thing people are looking for. So as time goes on, I haven't really had enough time in a way. As time goes on, I should be able to start to see some trends developing about the kind of things people like.
Yes.
And whilst I don't want to start going out shopping for it, I've also got thousands of books in the house, and I can start to rotate things through.
You can add in a genre for all the books as well as another column, and then on your Power BI dashboard have all the different, how many you've got. That'll be really cool. Yeah,
that's one of the things I've thought about doing. And the other thing, I've written a whole bunch of notes about what I want to do here, but the other thing I was thinking of doing was trying to do some kind of integration with the Google Books API, because that's free to access. You don't need a key. And then I can start to bring down the cover image, for example. So, and I'll talk about why I might want to do that in a little bit. So what happens is, what will I do? Do you know what? I might do a new share and just, I'm gonna play you a demo of it working. I think I was going to try doing that. I was going to try and do the thing that you'd suggested, Rory, but I don't trust it.
Oh, I know what you mean. Oh, is this the screenshots? Yeah, sure.
Yes, so this is what happens. Okay, so you open up the app and it looks like this. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, so you open up the app, it looks like this. I did this because it's been horsing it down with rain in Edinburgh today. So, and then you get your book, scan the app. And there it is. You hit the save button, and that saves it into the transactions list.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you get your next book, same thing. Looks it up.
Yeah.
Saves it.
So essentially, this is you on a daily basis outside, selecting all of them essentially to work out what's in and what's out.
Yeah. So what this is doing is this is going and looking up to the list and then bringing back the barcode and the title. And then, so this is all fine. And then, hang on a sec, we're going to see a new one in a minute. So these are all books that we know are in stock. This is new. So this is new. What happens with this one is it goes off and it can't find it. So it opens up the edit screen.
Very good.
Opens up the edit screen. Saves the barcode to the barcode field with an can't remember whether that's but I think that's an if statement that uses to do that.
Yeah.
And then I dictate the title.
How do you do that?
Just on the iPhone.
Oh, okay.
So what I'd like to have happen there is I'd like to have that go off and look it up on the Google Books API and bring that back, so I don't have to do anything. That would be the dream. And then mark that it's in stock. It's already got the date because the date's added, and that's it. That's all it does.
Brilliant.
So there's nothing really more to it than that. But it enables me to do some analysis. It enables me to check what's in and out of stock. It enables me to add new things. I started off with 2 apps, one that scanned and one that allowed me to add to the other list, and then I merged the 2 together. And you probably remember my triumphant crowing on Twitter when I'd managed to do that. It felt like a massive victory at the time.
Well, they're great little victories, aren't they? And
yeah,
some of these things, I mean, of course, the thing with the barcode, anything when you're working with barcode, it doesn't actually work on your computer. You have to actually do little workarounds to kind of pretend that you actually scan something, because otherwise it won't read anything. That's not native to your computer, which is, I don't know. I mean, I think the barcode scanning is brilliant, but of course it does make a challenge if you can't usually want something that works on a computer and somewhere else. But
so the other thing I quite like is the extra thing I did was I added a little flow using Power Automate, and that, hang on, if I can just move this. the zoom thing is in the way of the tab. So there's a flow on Twitter. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can bring it up. And so what happens is when it adds a new title, the flow on Twitter goes off and says that's been added.
All right.
Oh no, that is really good.
So it's a really, really easy little flow. And I spent ages messing around with Facebook, with the Facebook actions. So there's a trigger in SharePoint saying when it adds an item to a list, do this, and then I wanted it to post it to the Facebook page that the little library has.
But
and I spent ages, couldn't work out why it wouldn't work, but they've deprecated the connector for Facebook, so it doesn't actually work and go anywhere. So I've set up a Twitter account for it instead. So what I'd like to do is to do the Google API and have comments coming down as well with that, so it's a bit more impactful.
I'm amazed. It's brilliant, considering you just said you started in March 2020. That is really good, and it's the use case, which I think is fantastic, and the application of all the different things together. Well done.
Thank you, Mark. I have to say, I've kind of, I follow a whole bunch of people on Twitter who are doing remarkable things with, like, rebuilding Pac-Man on Power Apps and things, and I sit there looking at what I've done and go, that's a bit shit, really. So
you might get a few more followers after this.
When Rory asked me to present, I thought, no, I'm not sure.
Keep going.
The whole point is, it's not, what is not important is kind of how good it looks. It's about how closely what you've created is to whatever your purpose and your personal need was. And I would say that you couldn't have done what you have done without Power Apps and without the Power Platform.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. I could not have done it at all.
And that's really and it's not, the purpose of this is not to sell, anything. It's just to say, and it's cool. It's really fun.
What I want to do, if I possibly can, is to see if there's a way in which so the school at the minute, my daughter's school at the minute, the school library can't allow pupils in to handle the books. So the librarian has a big table and he puts all the books that he thinks that might be of interest on any given day, and he mixes it up all the time. And he knows them all, so he makes recommendations for things, and he's doing a proper job in a way that I would have suggested my booksellers did when I ran a big bookshop. And so he knows his people, but he's got the books all spread out so they can see the cover. And if you want the book, you've got to say, "I'll have that one," and if you touch it, it's yours until you bring it back. And then he has to quarantine the book for 48 hours before he puts it back into stock. And I was thinking, well, they're all using Teams, so why doesn't he set up a team and use this kind of functionality to build a Power App in Teams with the entire stock of his library, using the Google API to populate it, and then everyone can see what he's got and request it, and then he can scan it out using an iPad or a smartphone, and he can see who's borrowing stuff, and he can start to tailor things to people.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think in your case, what I would be considering is with Power BI, you can obviously build reports and so on, and you could, it'd be relatively easy for you to say, this is what my stock is at the moment.
Yeah.
Because obviously people are working out what your stock is by physically going to that place. But actually you've got an option within Power BI called Publish to Web.
Yeah.
And what that means is that you can have, I don't know how, I think it's like about an hour out of date to what Power BI actually shows. But say, for example, you did your scanning at 6 p.m. or something like that, and your refresh takes place at, 8 p.m. at night or something like that, then, you just want daily, don't you? And then what that means is that someone could actually go to your, you could embed the Power BI within your, like a web page or whatever, and then they would be able to see that. It's actually quite straightforward to do. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, in a way, I'd quite like to have a bash at building a simple website and just saying, this is, these are the books that are in stock, so that there's a kind of a classic, book layout on a website of cover, a bit of blurb, and the fact that it's available or not, because that would then allow me to make everything else I've got in the house available to people to borrow should they want to. And so, if anyone's, particularly stuck, I mean, we've got a couple of people around here who are very elderly, and we've got a couple of people who are disabled or too ill to leave the house. I could then take stuff to them, based on their personal choices, and they're not limited to just the 3 small shelves I've got in the library on the fence.
And then you can get people advertising on your website and generate some income. And it won't be just the street. Think big.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking, Mark.
10%.
Tight margins in books, I'm afraid.
Well.
Does anyone else have any questions for Matthew at this point? Feel free to unmute and ask away.
Hi, this is Fernando Calero. Excellent, Matthew. Congratulations.
Hi, Fernando.
And I just discovered one video from Keith Watling. I don't know if you have seen it, and he talks about a library application also.
Yeah, he actually talks directly about the Google Books API, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that video, and I looked at that about 2 days ago and thought, have I got time? And then, see, the problem is I don't know where in my workflow that comes. Oh, curry's just arrived. I don't know where in my workflow that comes, because I don't really need the images in the app. What I need is the images on some either website that I don't yet have, or just to be published to social media. So I'm not sure if it's a link to the Google Books API in the app I need, or whether I need to do something with the flow once the items have been added.
One other
thing, could you show the ugly Power BI report that you have, please?
Oh God, really?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I'm not even sure what state it's in, to be honest with you. Oh, hang on, what have I done?
It's a draft.
Bear with me.
So, I mean, one of the questions I'd like to ask is, what was your biggest challenge in making this app?
Right. The two things. I'm not sure it's necessarily the answer to that question, but the two things I learned, the most valuable things I learned and that actually provided the functionality I was looking for, were learning how to use if statements, which kind of was, I'd convinced myself it was too difficult, and it ended up being really straightforward because it's so like Excel. It's almost
just
painful.
Excel, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one was Patch, which you and I have discussed already, which I found super intuitive, but I know that some people find really difficult.
Well, believe it or not, I'm using it at the moment in anger and so on, but really I tend to avoid using Patch like the plague, just because I never fully understood it. When you're patching to places like SharePoint, it gets really complicated if you're using complex fields like people fields and so on. So you will find, depending on the data source, it will be a different level challenge, particularly when you patch to SharePoint. It gets quite interesting.
Yeah.
So this is your Power BI report.
Yeah, there's something not quite right about it. So I don't know any DAX. So what I'm trying to do, count the number of scans that I've done here, and that's right. This book here, Chasm City, I've been using as a test, and that's right. These things up here, this book here, for example, I've scanned that countless times. So there's no way that's right.
Well, I mean, the first thing to do is to look at the relationships and just verify that the relationships between those two tables actually work.
Yeah.
And that's in that little relationships pane, because if it's not there, then you're going to get some odd figures come up. Just on the left-hand side, all the way on the left-hand side.
You guys are over the top of it.
Oh, okay. You're trying to move it around, are you?
Oh, the left-hand side. Here we are. Yeah.
The left-hand side. So if you click on that, then you would obviously have your relationships there. You can see there's a one-to-many relationships. So the LR list is your items. You're using the barcode, which looks fine to me.
I didn't think it needed to be any more complicated than that.
No, it doesn't really. Now you've got two-way. You've got the two arrows going both ways, which means it can filter both ways. What I would then do is if you're then kind of thinking, oh, I've definitely done this more than one time, you would then move to the actual data pane where you can see the data, and then you can sort it by barcode for arguments. I mean, whichever. I mean, because barcode's the I'm sure they haven't got the same name anyway.
Do it by title. You see, this is the
sure, and maybe now what you do is find that item that you previously said you've taken out more than one time, but it's only saying a 1, and then I'd literally investigate that one. So I'd go back to your screen there. They'd go back to the visualizations pane.
Yeah.
And
I think it's reading from the wrong table. I think it's reading it from it's not reading it from the transactions, it's reading it from the book list.
It's usually that's usually the case, but you would typically read the title from the main table, from the table with the 1, and then what you would probably do is you would create a measure, typically, which would be sum, and then or rather it would be count rows in this case. So when you want to count a number of transactions, count rows is a very effective way of doing that. But we don't think we've got time to.
No. Let's let Paul have a go. I feel like I've hogged the screen too long.
No, it's probably me wanting to start anyway. So well, thank you for sharing that with us. And as I say, I really like it. I like the fact that you think there are things that you would do further to to enhance and improve it. But actually, I think you're thinking bigger than just the app, you know. And I think that's the reality, is the app is just one bit of many things. So yeah, thank you for that. Very interesting. I love the handiwork, actually.
That was the bit that took me the longest, actually. I'm terrible at actually getting round to getting the saw out and the nails and the paint and doing it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So cool. Thank you. Thanks everyone for your feedback.
Thanks,
well done, thank you.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to hand over to Paul Burns, and Paul is going to spend some time to talk to us and tell us about the app that he has built to enable people who have suffered with a stroke in their recovery process. So I'm going to hand over the floor to Paul.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, back in June the 13th, 2017, I had the misfortune to experience 2 strokes in one day. And it left me with no movement down the right-hand side at all. So there was a long, slow process of regaining that movement, and part of that regaining of movement involves a lot of repetitional moves. So we move on, but I've been an avid user of Microsoft products, or the Office products, well, it was Office 365 at that point, for a while now with my consultancy business. So I was tinkering along with the whole platform when it was getting announced and all that, and looking and thinking that would be really useful for my clients, to try and get away from having lots of documents with just repetitive documents. And we have what's called legal registers, so I could put that on SharePoint. I thought about, right, that would work. So I came across, I started watching YouTube videos, and then I came across Rory's videos, and then having watched Rory's videos for a bit of time, he put out a wonderful gesture of providing the course for free in October there, and that's basically when I really started this in earnest, I suppose. And I started following along Rory's course, which is great. It's well structured. I've looked at other things, and they're not quite as professional at times, but Rory's is very, very well done. So it was easy enough to follow on and start to learn. And I watched, a lot of videos with Shane and Daniel and Reza and April Dunham. Is it April Dunham? Yeah. And various other people, So I was picking up bits and pieces. And one of the things when we were doing a kind of show like this one night, and I think you spoke about, Rory, if you're doing an app, do something that would appeal to you, or it makes sense to you. So I started thinking along with the idea of a handwriting app, to help with, because I still have problems with my own handwriting. The small muscles are the ones that take the longest to repair. So I really struggle with my own handwriting. So I just, I started thinking about and opening things up and looking, saying, right, we could add this in, and then I seen that the pen input, and I thought, oh, pen input, I can actually start writing things on a screen now, And then my son was watching, and my son says, this has been the thing that I've been most enthusiastic about for years, and he said to me, why don't you put letters in there, Dad, and in shapes? And I went, okay, right. So I found a suitable font, because one of the difficult parts for stroke survivors is drawing something in a straight line is not too bad, but if there's a flow to it or curves in it, it becomes a bit more difficult, a bit more challenging. So I found a font, I think it's Patrick font, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Where it's a bit more fluid, the lettering. So I thought that would be a bit more of a challenge to me. And then I just picked icon shapes, and I put them as dots rather than a solid line, so you can just trace round about the shapes. And really the only, I don't like using the term coding, it's only just navigate from one screen to the next, and that is really it. You know, and you know, I've actually enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it so much. There's probably very professional things like this out there, you know, that other people can use, you know, but this is my baby. You know, so I'm happy with it. So
do you want to share your screen and then share the app?
I'll try. I did this mirror app, Rory, but I think I've got the problem with the watermark. So,
but you can just share your screen, can't you?
Yeah. Can you see this?
Just imagine you're doing it with a mouse. People will understand the. Yeah. So I assume that you're using this on an iPad from what you're saying then.
Can you see this at the moment?
Yeah.
So, sorry about the watermark.
Oh yeah, I have the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just basically this is the home screen. So from here I can just select the letter index, and it takes me to the letters of the alphabet, obviously, and you can just pick on a letter and just let's see, B. And using your finger or digital pen, you just trace out the, oops, when it works, of course.
So at this point, you're on your iPad at the moment, are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, this one. Oh, sod's law, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. So
yeah.
And just draw.
Yeah.
Then you can just delete it.
Oh, then you can reset it as well.
Yeah. We've got a shape screen. Pick triangle. And
that actually looks quite difficult, that, to be honest.
It is. But it's yeah.
Yeah.
See, straight lines are actually not too bad for me, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so forth, you know, you can pick various shapes and the likes, and then it just takes you back to the home screen if you need it.
Yeah.
Will I stop sharing this now?
Oh, you can leave it on if you want. It's fine.
That's amazing, Paul. That's absolutely brilliant. That's so good.
You know, I've been amazed at just how many, you know, really great comments I'm getting of people, and you know, and it's just so simple, this one. You know, and I feel quite embarrassed about it all.
I mean, on a technical level, I think what we're looking at is a pen input with a transparent background, overlaid over an image, which is the image that you want it to be.
Yeah. That's as simple as that. Yeah.
And I did see Shane do that sort of thing. He actually did it on the Power Apps for Kids session we did recently.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, no, he showed something very similar where you could essentially edit a selfie. So what he did was he took a photo of himself, and then you were then able to kind of scribble on it or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but then what you could do is you effectively save the image and the pen input at the same time, and then what would happen is each time you looked at it, you would kind of overlay the two across each other, so it looked like it was actually one image when in fact it was actually two. So that was his thing. But I think what the reason why people find this one interesting is because it's so obviously useful. And like, how many people know people that have suffered with strokes, and what did they get? What did they have to? What my mother-in-law had a stroke, and I remember seeing this. There was a board in the ward, and it had all these prime ministers on. It had Margaret Thatcher. It had, you know, John Major. It had all sorts of people. It was also interesting because it was like people from quite a while ago, and I thought that was interesting. And it only dawned on me. I don't know if it dawned on me whilst I was there, but it made me realise that actually the whole point of that was to kind of exercise their brains so that they can say, oh, who's this and who's this and who's that, and of course there's lots of ways that you could leverage that sort of thing to create an interesting experience. So on the one hand, you've got the physical impact of the stroke, which is obviously mental as well, but then presumably is there a memory loss side to things as well?
Well, everyone's stroke's different, really. Thankfully, man, you know, I don't seem to have experienced anything with memory loss. There's more the physical, you know, the loss of the use of my arm and use of my leg at the time.
So, but for some people, they do have the memory side of things, and so in my mind, I was thinking, wouldn't it be good if they could have an app where, you know, it wasn't just pictures of people from their, you know, prime ministers or whatever, general people, but imagine if it was family members and they were having to see. One of the things I did before was I created this app, and it was a I'm not sure I give it a really rubbish name. I think I called it something like person fight. I don't know. Essentially, it was, you had this black screen, and gradually the images, the squares would disappear, and then eventually you would see the actual image itself. So it was a guessing game. I mean, I gave it. It was called the reveal game. Should I show that actually whilst we're in the mood? Shall I go for it? So I'll try and share my screen and try and. I told you it was a rubbish name. It's called the reveal game. And I'm going to jump onto screen 3 and go to share. And now I'm just going to go up to here, pop that on the screen, and then go make. No. Is everyone able to see my screen at this point?
Yes.
Fab. And it was in here, and I would go into here, and I'll go reveal. That was the reveal. Yeah, I made a simplified version of it. I'm going to go on to the edit version of it because I think the edit version is quite nice, because I think I made it really, really, really simple to edit. You know, stupendously simple to edit. So the idea of this
wants
game.
to ask something.
Sorry?
I think Fernando wants to ask something.
Oh, sorry, Fernando. I can't actually see the chat at the moment. By all means, yeah, just shout. I'm just going to stop sharing then.
Very briefly, I just want to ask Matthew the percentage of books he has already read.
Oh, it's all of them, obviously.
It's 100%.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So this is my reveal app, and I kind of had this idea that you tell it how many rows and columns that you want to have. Maybe this will be a 6x6, and then you hit the play button, and then what you do is you click on it, and gradually it reveals. This is a really rubbish image. I know what it is. It's some kind of flamingo, and then you hit the refresh, and then gradually someone else appears. So by all means, you can shout out at the moment because I can't see the chat. as to what this is. And it's really great exercise for the brain, actually, that you can gradually...
Harry.
Exactly. And so I just chucked in some kind of fairly famous figures. Eventually, it'll be someone that we all that's quite well known at the moment. Exactly. We'll move on from.
That's all you needed to see.
Exactly.
It's like catchphrase from the 80s, is it? On the 90s.
You just have to get him off the screen at the moment. He'll. I don't want to start getting don't want to get fractures.
I wish it was that easy.
So I don't know what this is, by the way. Oh, I do know what this is. Yeah, I know who this is. Someone's going to get it any second now.
Oh, it's Bolt.
Yeah, well done.
Usain Bolt.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Usain Bolt. But the thing so the way in which this works is it's basically an image sitting behind everything, a bit like how Paul had put things together, but you've got a gallery in front of it, and so the gallery's got these little blocks in there. So if I actually if I do another one, it's a bit easier to see. So actually the blocks are black, and gradually they disappear to reveal whatever is in front of the blocks, and so you could have a lesson with it or whatever. And the reason why this is cool is because you can go onto this image here, and I think you can basically go onto here, click on the image, go to add an image, and basically just go and I don't know, I'll stick this show and tell thing here, and it will go and put in the show and tell thing from today. So I think from a design point of view, it's quite easy to change, which means I can go onto here, maybe just make this a 4x4, and then it might need to refresh. It probably does actually, in order for it to all start hanging together. Let me just see if there's an on start. Run on start. Probably needs to run the on start. Yeah, there we are. So that's how easy this was to edit this app, to bring in a new image. Now, I wanted to make it standalone, but also editable. And this was like the best thing I could think of. So yeah, that was kind of fun.
How does it determine what to reveal? Is it like random each time it goes to choose a random box? Or is it the same pattern?
It does it in the same order each time. So it essentially goes image 1, image 2, image 3. I mean, I could make it go in a random order, but ultimately it's the same images anyway. And once you've done the game once, you know the.
No, I didn't mean that. Sorry, Rory, I misunderstood me. In terms of the reveal, when the black blocks reveal themselves, disappear, is it the same black boxes on the screen every time, every image? Does it reveal them in the same algorithmic?
No, it doesn't, because what I've got is I'm trying to think about where it is actually. Yeah, they're the images. But actually, what happens is just imagine in this case 16 blocks, numbered 1 through to 16. Yeah. But if you use the shuffle function, it will just randomize the order of those items. So I don't know if I actually put it inside a collection at all. So call image selection, no, call reveal. So you can actually see the order of that reveal collection is completely random now. It's not. And if I zapped if I started it again, it would be in a different order every time. And it's just super simple. I don't know if I stuck it in a spreadsheet or what. I don't like putting it in spreadsheets, but in this case, it was so simple. I think if I was to do it again, I would use the sequence and then do a shuffle of that, which would be fine. But you can actually see on there that as I'm clicking on things, it says, hey, I want you to be either visible or not visible, as the case may be. It looks like they're the wrong way around. And then it just gets placed on the screen in the order of the collection. And that's what makes it random. But I agree with you. It would have been really annoying going left to right or something. But
I love how you say it's really simple.
Sorry?
I love how you say it's really simple.
Well, but I think every part of it is understandable. Like there's no part of it that is like you know, you have a series of numbers 1 through to 16. When you kind of, I'm just going to click on this thing here. When you click on this button here on select, it will shuffle this thing that I've called table reveal, which is basically and the only reason it's more complex is probably because, as well as dealing with I can do 4x4, 5x5, 6x6, 7x7. But if you just said 6x6 is good enough for me, then it gets even less complicated in order to make it all work. So yeah, so that business here, order is this business here is all about the fact that I've got 5x5, 6x6, etc., etc. So I need to limit. I've got my table reveal table goes up to 100, say, but I only need 16 when I'm doing one thing. So yeah, so that's how I dealt with that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Stop share.
The thing, sorry, Rory, for jumping in. The thing that I found with this is that I have had no experience with this at all. You know, in July, until probably June or July last year, when I started getting interested in it. And the people behind all this, you know, creating the Power Platform and making it easier for people like me who has no
Oh, have we just lost Paul briefly?
Yeah, he's gone out.
I'll just drop him a little message. Hi, Paul. We lost you there. Whilst Paul reconnects. Oh, actually, I'm just sending a message. Did I just? No. Oh, that's all right. Hey, Paul.
Yeah, sorry. I went on a ramble there, you know.
No, it's fine.
I don't know if you heard anything I said.
Yeah, I think it's because you started swearing.
Only when I see other people's apps.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was ready to hit my head across the on the table today, doing some of my bits and pieces. I basically today my effort was spent on one button. It just happened to be a very complicated button, with doing things that where you're patching to SharePoint. So yeah, lots of challenges. But you know what? I think your story is brilliant, Paul. And I would like us to have more stories like this, because I think that the scope for Power Apps to be something that lots of people can do is there already. We know you can do it when you've had a stroke, and you've only just started using this. But at the other end of the scale, we've got 8-year-old and 10-year-old boys and girls making apps. So, you know, I'm not going to say there's no excuse, but there's kind of like it is something that lots of people can use. Yeah, well,
up until June or July last year, I had never thought about doing anything like this. You know, and the people behind the development of this is making it so easy for people like myself to get involved in it. You know, I mean, I've got no experience in this type of thing whatsoever. You know, I can do simple Excel sheets and stuff like that. That's about it. You know, so it's a fantastic thing. It really is.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything they want to chip in?
I think Mark, his hand up there.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even know I didn't even know that was a hand thing. I thought it was like a smiley or something.
I thought that was the same cheerio.
Yes, I was just wondering, just in terms of for anybody really, I suppose, or Rory, when you sort of started off with any app that you're looking to develop, for example, do you find it a very iterative process as opposed to, or do you sort of sit and think it through about every widget and every sort of how you want it to look and draw a sketch of it on like a OneNote or a piece of paper, a pad and a paper and a pen, and sort of this is what I want the GUI to look like, and then go off and build and face challenges? Or do you tend to sort of not know where you're going with it and just build, and a bit like, I don't know, maybe Matthew with your library, like, oh, I didn't know that was available. Oh, I could actually build in a scanner, and then, you know, iteratively build, because that's how I tend to do things, but I don't think it's efficient. So just wondering what other people's experiences are.
I asked Rory this, I think, in a session similar to this, and Rory said, "Oh, design it first every time," and I think he's right. Although having said that, you know, certainly with the thing I've built, as I've gone through, I've thought, I wonder if it'll do this, and then gone, oh yeah, it will. And you know, if you look at the list of apps I've got on my Power Apps dashboard, there's most of them are like version 0.1, version 0.2, version 0.3, version 0.4, because the early ones were just nonsense. And so I would always try and design it first, but there's always going to be something you haven't thought of. So you need to leave yourself space for the iterative process as well. But I
suppose it's iterative for two reasons, though, isn't it? It's iterative because you don't know what you want to do necessarily, or you don't know that there's tools or functions or code which is available to give you something which you didn't know was available. So you can only design it based on your initial understanding. But as you play and explore, your knowledge builds on the platform, and then you think, oh, I could have done what I did before, which took me 5 hours, by using a different function or code or something, and I've done it in half an hour. Do other people experience this, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I felt. I mean, I kept coming across, when I did the if statement thing on my app, and just going, oh, Christ, this works exactly like it does in Excel. Why did I not just do that before? And it was only when I went to look for it that I realized that that was what it did.
And I think that's why I put the course together to, like, you don't have to do all the functions, you don't have to do anything really, but at least you can just kind of scroll through it and kind of go, oh, there's enough function, or there's because I think I might do switch as well, but you can just find things there, and I haven't covered every function, because I'd be here, you know, no one would ever end up finishing the course, and you'd never allow for every eventuality. I think, Mark, to answer your question, I have never built an app that I have then not gone and changed. It's always ended up different to what I expected at the start, but the differences nowadays are less than they were initially. And I'd be saying, you know, look, if you don't know what to plan, then it's fine. Just build anything, doesn't matter. You know, just build away. But do be prepared to throw it away as well. Because if you want to build well, then you would be building your controls, giving them names and all that sort of thing, all that good stuff. Because without naming your controls correctly, then your formulas become horrendously difficult, because you don't even know what you need to reference.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of that. When you think to yourself, do you know what, this is actually worth something? This has, like, so I have what I call production apps, and those are apps I actually use. And then in those apps, I think, you know, I'm going to do this properly. Like, and typically I build them in Dataverse, because it gives me more functionality than SharePoint or SQL or whatever. And I can actually, I've then got a platform where if I wanted to pick it up and put it somewhere else, I could do that. So Dataverse is a superior platform for that reason.
Is that apps, Power Apps within Teams? Is that what you mean by that, Dataverse?
No, well, yes and no. There is a cut down version of Dataverse within Teams, but it is a cut down version. So you don't get to build what they call model driven apps. And when I say I want to build something big, I want to build something that has got a model driven app associated with it. So in my case, the app I use to, so what I do is I build a lot of functionality in the app, but quite often I don't allow myself to delete things within the app. I force myself to go out to the model driven app and then do the delete there, because it's so easy just to click delete and then you might lose stuff. Whereas it's better in a model driven app. And they've built it for you already. Like, you can build a model-driven app in about, I don't know, 4 minutes. The hard bit of a model-driven app is not actually building it, ironically. It's actually building all of the little tables that support it. But yeah, in answer to your question, I've never built an app that hasn't turned out differently to what I expected. But it is good to have a little plan. And I would always do a landing page. Like, it's like with your books, Matthew. Like, they've all got covers, haven't they? They don't all, you don't pick up a book and start on page 1.
Yeah.
And if you don't put a cover on your apps, that's what happens. You are, on page 1. You're thinking, oh, crikey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I would always put a cover on the front of your apps. It's, why wouldn't you?
The old adage when I was in the book trade was you can sell an awful lot of a bad book with a good cover and very few of a good book with a bad cover.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Need to think about what it looks like. You want your
So we've only got a few minutes left because it literally at 7:10 it will just go and it will just disappear. My question to you guys is, would you want to see more? There are different type of events that we can do. We can do like little mini workshops where I kind of, or like just call it a surgery where I say, hey, turn up, ask me questions, I'll help fix your apps type thing. That could be a session. We could do more show and tells. And so maybe, if people think show and tells are quite good, then we could do those. I built a crossword app actually over Christmas. I love it. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. So I've got some really clever things. Do people like the idea of the show and tell sessions? Is that something we should do more of?
It gives inspiration, I think, that other people are doing stuff, and also inspiration of ideas of application of what can be done.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And are there any? And what about the type of session where it's like a kind of surgery type session where people have problems and then you kind of talk about how to solve them? Is that?
Yeah.
The problem with that is that person A's problem won't be person B's problem.
No, but there'll
be a lot of overlap.
There is a lot of overlap. We do. So I'm part of the Virtual Power Group Scotland, and we do. There's a flow surgery that Matt Collins-Jones does every month, and it was last night actually. I couldn't go, but that's incredibly useful because someone will come up with a particular thing, and you'll go, oh, that's a bit like this thing that I'm trying to do, and actually, Matt's really good at answering that kind of stuff as well. So. It's well worth it, I think.
Well, as I say, we are right at time, and the way in which this thing works, it will just literally shut down, and you'll wonder where I've gone. So I'm going to say thank you so much to you all for coming. Thank you to Paul and to Matthew for showing us the things that they've created. It's creating a lot of interest here, and I look forward to seeing you in future sessions.